seen 355 mass shootings, and the way they quantify a mass shooting is 4 more people, including the gunman, killed or injured by gunfire. So based on the numbers we have here, this is the 2nd mass shooting of today, and bringing us to 355 mass shootings.
We've been listening in on KNBC's coverage of this ongoing breaking situation. 14 dead, 14 injured in the shooting at the Inwood Regional Center, a developmental disability center in San Bernardino, California. You can imagine the horror not only of those who were inside the building when this took place, but also their loved ones and people who knew folks in there when they got word of this, and we heard from some of them just a short time ago.
I'm really scared for my sister.
Did she tell you what happened inside?
She just said there was a shooting. She's scared. She's hiding in the closet.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I have no words to describe it.
Your sister's in there?
Well, she works there. I haven't been able to contact her.
How frightening is this?
Oh, no.
My daughter's out of the building and she's safe.
You just got the call?
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Relieved. But sad for the others.
She was whispering because she didn't want to be heard. I think she didn't want anyone to hear her. If they were outside in the hall, she didn't want them to open up the doors, and that's why she turned off the lights, or someone turned off the lights in the department, and they locked the door. That's all that I know. That's all that she told me. And then we stopped talking because I didn't want her to talk anymore.
What a helpless feeling to be in contact with your loved ones. You can't get to them, and they are in this desperate situation with a gunman opening fire. All the gunfire apparently in a centralized part of one building in that multiple building complex. Let me bring back in Clint Van Sant, former FBI profiler. Clint, I guess it's natural for us to want to categorize these things, and the fact is 14 people are dead, and no matter what you call it, that reality is inescapable. But when we hear 3 people who, as the police chief said, came prepared as if they were on a mission, and we hear those 3 people are potentially still out there, where does that take you as a former law enforcement officer?
Well, you know, investigators are investigating this right now, Lester, and the media.
We have some breaking news to tell you about. Good news, actually. That lockdown at Kirtland Air Force Base has just been lifted.
Obviously, it was a very tense situation this afternoon, especially with what has happened in San Bernardino. We want to let you know that Kirtland officials did tell us there were unconfirmed reports of an active shooter in Building 1010. This all started with reports of shots being fired on the west side of the base. That report turned out to be nothing. And of course, all schools on base were in lockdown, but they have been lifted. The VA hospital was a shelter in place when we thought this was a substantiated shooter on the base, which again has turned out to not be true. We're going to have our crews still there to kind of wrap up things and figure out exactly what happened. So the concern here in Albuquerque over. Let's go back now to NBC News covering the situation in San Bernardino.
Who would have had some reason, some type of malice to go after, to commit a terrible atrocity like this, and then whether it's an act of international terrorism, domestic terrorism, some frustrated fired employee, that he or they were able to assemble 3 people, weapons, body armor, and put together this plan. I mean, the chief of police is right. These are at least 1 to 3 people who came in with a purpose, and that purpose was mass murder.
I hope you people understand how all this is going to be used to take away your guns, your rights to private property, and national sovereignty.
I think it's likely if it was anything related to the group or related to the people in the room, and 1 to 3 shooters, someone likely would have said something, or someone in the room might have either recognized a shooter by his face, or if they had masks on, as we're told, maybe recognized the shooter by their build, or something that was said or murmured within that room. Those are things right now that hundreds of law enforcement officers all all over that area, California, are trying to identify. If the chief is right, they have leads not only on the vehicle description that Tom Costello told us about that was being put all over the area, but they may have an idea of a suspect or suspects in this case too. They may not want to show their hand, but hopefully there are dozens of law enforcement officers moving in every direction and every lead, while at the same time we're ministering to the injured, we're feeling so bad for the dead, and we're trying to develop further information to help us identify who the shooter was. And again, Lester, as you well know from the reporting that's been done, this is almost 400 people this year that have been killed in America in mass shootings. Whatever type of terrorism we call this, this is an unacceptable level of violence that this country has got to get a handle on. I don't care what your political affiliation.
See?
We have to find a way.
They're going to use this to take your guns, guys. Don't let them do it.
Limit weapons to deal with mental health situations. This calls for America to come together and not be divided on a situation like this.
If this was, it turns out to be a random target, that this place was hit for no other reason than it had a lot of people in it, as law enforcement, do you have to be concerned about a second attack, a second location that could be targeted?
Well, with the chief telling us that these individuals appear to have come to this location with a purpose, that is probably their ultimate purpose. In essence, they may well be surprised that they were even able to escape the area at this time. And again, as you rightfully said, law enforcement is still searching these massive buildings in the areas
Only
around.
the government can save the day.
Now, I think the biggest challenge is going to be if the shooter or shooters escaped, it's going to be when those
San Bernardino's
law enforcement officers
going to be under martial law.
Confront these
pretty much, guys,
and deal with them. This is going to be a tremendous threat to law enforcement, and unfortunately it does continue to be a threat for the public until these shooters are found.
All right, Clint Van Sant, thank you. We'll be checking back with you. We want to go to the scene now. NBC's Miguel Almaguer is there. Describe the scene and what you learned so far, Miguel.
Well, Lester, still a very active scene. As a matter of fact, just a few minutes ago, we saw more police officers driving down this road. There was also a large bus that looked like it would be transferring folks who are down at the crime scene out of this area in a short time from now. Police helicopters are still overhead. Certainly just a short time ago, we saw bomb squad members coming into this area. It's difficult to hear what is happening behind us because we're somewhat of a distance away, but certainly a very active scene. Police with their rifles, their long guns are out here, as well as several people who are looking for any information about friends or family members that may have been involved in this incident. We also know at nearby hospitals there are several people who are gathering, ambulances rushing in and out of that area, so it does appear as though the numbers here may change. As you know right now, Lester, reports that there are 14 people dead, another 14 injured as police search for 3 suspects in this area, Lester.
Yeah, have you seen any indication of police actually leaving the scene to join the hunt?
No, Lester, we're about 2 blocks away from where the incident actually took place, and from our vantage point here, the roads are blocked off a few blocks in the other direction, but police are continuing to come into this area. We are certain, though, we have heard reports that there is police activity all across this region at this very hour, but here it seems
martial law.
Investigators are still arriving on scene. We have heard there are over 100 police officers here at this location alone, so we haven't seen many officers scrambling out of this area, but we do know at this hour there is certainly a manhunt going on all across this region.
I'm sure it's very tense there. And lastly, I don't know if from your vantage point, we had seen earlier a lot of people who had been rescued from inside.
Martial law.
Have they been taken from the area, any sign of them?